The real reason Ashes of Creation can succeed where other MMOs failed.
Months now since I released my last Ashes of Creation video,
it's been a while.
And since then the hype levels for the game have only continued to grow, with multiple large streamers having interviews with the game's creative director, consistent progress and new gameplay being shown to us with every monthly live stream, and the Ashes of Creation YouTube channel soon hitting 100k subs, which is kinda crazy for a game that's still a solid 2+ years out from a full release.
Wait, let me compare it again.
Consistent progress and new gameplay being shown to us with every monthly live stream, and the Ashes of Creation YouTube channel soon hit.
So it almost has 100,000. Oh yeah, because they made a tweet about it with like the little plaque. I remember seeing that.
100k subs, which is kind of crazy.
20k for New World? Oh my god, that's way more. Holy fuck!
For a game that's still a solid 2+
and Crowfall only 20k,
years out from
Pantheon
a full release.
20.
By the way, if you don't know what Ashes of Creation is, then watch my previous video. It does a decent job of explaining the main features of the game. In this video, I want to talk about the real reason I think Ashes of Creation will succeed where other MMOs have failed, talk about some of the new info that's came out since my last video, and also discuss the recent info that's came out regarding Alpha 1 testing dates.
Why will Ashes of Creation
First, let's get into the title of this video.
Well, number one, because they have turtle mounts. I mean, I'm pretty sure that just pretty much settles it right there. I mean, they got turtle mounts. What else is there to say?
Over the past few months, I've seen a lot of people make comments along the lines of Ashes of Creation being the next WoW killer. There's been hundreds of MMOs released over the past decade that have failed. This means it's likely that Ashes will also fail. First of all, I can understand the skepticism, but I think comparing Ashes of Creation to past MMOs that have failed is a bit of a false equivalence, because the goals and circumstances around this game is completely different compared to MMOs that have failed in the past. As far as I'm aware, Ashes of Creation is the only MMO that's ever been fully funded by a lifelong MMO fan that's main goal is to just make the best MMORPG possible.
That's basically what happened with Vanilla WoW, is you've got to remember that. Is Vanilla WoW came from Alex Afrasabi or whatever the hell, and Jeff Kaplan, who were just pissed off EverQuest players who had just had a fucking enough. They had enough of EverQuest fucking around, and they're like, you know what? We're gonna make our own fucking game, and we're tired of this shit. And then Vanilla WoW became Vanilla WoW. So you gotta remember that. Yeah, this has happened before, actually. Not in the same way, right? Not in the way that he's saying it. But, you know, in the past, whenever you have these games that are developed by, like, these massive MMO fans that are very outspoken about it, you go read fucking Jeff Kaplan's messages and like those other messages, man, those dudes were pissed. Like, they were worse than I was. Yeah, this cycle repeats itself. I certainly hope so.
There's no outside pressure from investors, the developers have 100% creative control over the game, and the game is actually funded with a realistic budget. When you look at the reason other MMO projects have failed in the past, you've typically got reasons such as pay to win, aggressive monetization, and poor business models, which Ashes will not have as they're going with the tried and true sub model. You've got publishers taking control away from developers and rushing a game out, as well as changing the vision.
That's what happens, is I feel like that's what really has the problems, is like you have the developers that have a vision of the game, and then the publishers, or basically the people in suits, tell them, okay, put your dreams on hold here. Let's make some money. And that's what ends up happening. So yeah, I mean, like, what he's saying is completely true. It's unfortunate, but there it is. I feel like a lot of these guys, like all the guys, I really believe this, right? All the guys on the WoW team, they might be wrong with what they're doing, but they love the game. And it's the same as like the guys on the New World team, the guys on the Ashes team. All these guys love the game. They might be wrong about certain things, but they want it to be good. And I think the problem is whenever you have it to where you have to compromise with how much good the game is going to have.
of that game. This is a non-factor with Ashes as it's going to be a self-published game. You've got funding issues and devs running out of money. Ashes is already fully funded till completion, so hopefully not an issue. And what's probably the biggest factor in failed MMOs? Developers not listening to overwhelming community feedback and making the necessary changes for a game to truly succeed.
I've heard that before.
This third point for me is the biggest reason why I have hope in Ashes. It's no secret that I've been following this project for a long time, and recently I was able to test the game's pre-alpha, which I won't talk about due to NDA, but let's just say when playing the game there was some feedback I really felt as though needed to be given. Core fundamental gameplay feedback. I wrote a detailed post on the forum and Steven replied to me directly asking for more info on my feedback, and we actually had a discussion as a result of it where I genuinely felt like my feedback had been taken on board.
I feel like Ashes of Creation, like that's awesome. And Ashes of Creation, the philosophy, like it's basically the opposite of WoW. Where like WoW, the fundamental gameplay of WoW is really good. Like it's extremely fluid, it's very responsive, it's not janky, it's not jerky, it's not choppy, it's not shitty. The fundamental gameplay of WoW is really, really, really good and responsive. But the philosophy surrounding the game and the philosophy that directs the development of the game is what the problem is. And I think with Ashes of Creation, the philosophy surrounding the game and the philosophy that's used developing the game is the good thing. And that's what makes it so promising right now. And what's going to be a make it or break it for Ashes is if they can get to that core gameplay and really give people that feeling of responsiveness and that feeling of control and that feeling of fluidity that WoW gives players. Like, because that's one of the things that like Blizzard, like across all the years, like Overwatch is responsive as fuck. It is clean as fuck. Diablo 3, besides the first few months, is clean and responsive as fuck. And so is WoW. These games are extremely responsive. They are extremely smooth, and that still is Blizzard quality. That is one thing that they have never skimped on. Not even in Heroes of the Storm or any of their games. It's always been responsive. So, like, that's what Ashes of Creation really needs to compete against and really needs to look at how they can do better.
Concern some people have with a game like Ashes being fully funded by one guy with his own vision for the game is that it might be hard to take criticism and an ego might get in the way of feedback. But with Steven, I'm confident this isn't the case, and the vibe I've had with this project from day one is that even if things aren't good with certain aspects of the game now, the team are willing to keep making changes and keep taking feedback until it's eventually good, even if that means delaying the game. Can you imagine how many people would still play WoW if the devs just listened to the overwhelming feedback from the community?
Oh, am I gonna get fucking depression now? I mean, am I gonna get fucking depression now? This is terrible. Yeah, I mean, like, I think it would definitely be more, right? I mean, overall, like, I think that having a vision for the game is really important, and sometimes the community is wrong about certain things. So, like, for example, like, the community was wrong about wanting stat templates in PvP. They were just genuinely wrong. And the developers took the information from the community, and then they decided that, you know, we're going to listen to the community, and they ended up hurting the game. So I think that there are times whenever the community is wrong, and it's, again, like a good developer is able to know the difference. A good developer can look and see, this is, you know, this is why the community feels this way. How can I solve the core impulse of the feeling? It's like, how can I solve the fucking, like, WoW solves symptoms, and we want them to solve the actual disease. That's kind of what it is.
Over the years, they'd have done something about the awful legendary system in Legion. There'd be no Titan forging, no AP grinds making the game less ult-friendly in previous expansions, and they wouldn't constantly make the mistake of implementing borrowed power systems.
Again.
It's going to be nice to play an MMO where the developers actually listen to the community and are willing to engage with them in discussions.
Yeah, vision is very important.
Next, let's talk about the recent announcement of the Alpha 1 dates, which were given in the most recent Creative Director's letter. So from December 18th to December 21st, we've got a 4-day Alpha 1 preview test period, which is under NDA. This is for people who bought the $550 backer pack and higher. There's another 4-day NDA test from February 19th to the 22nd. This is also under NDA. There's a week-long test from March 19th to the 26th, which will not be under NDA, and all official content creators will have access to this.
That's what I really want to play. I'm really looking forward to playing that. In my opinion, like, I'm thinking about just like not playing until the NDA is lifted. And that way you guys will actually get my first impressions of the game and you'll see me play it for the first time. That's kind of what you guys would want, right? Like, I'm trying to get like an idea. You guys would probably want me to experience it on stream for the first time with you guys, rather than me being like, oh, I did this on the NDA, I did that on the NDA. Okay, yeah, all right, we'll do that. I won't play the NDA stuff. I'll read about it. I might even get feedback about things that I see, but I won't play it. And that way I could kind of give people a genuine impression.
This week, expect to see this game being streamed by a lot of people on Twitch.
Yeah.
And finally, the full Alpha 1 will be playable from April 6th to May 6th. No NDA and available for anyone that's paid for that level of access. Now, in previous videos, I have said that it was initially planned for Alpha 1 to be playable before 2021, so it seems as though there's been a delay of a few months since the letter we got at the beginning of 2020.
They couldn't do it. It just makes sense, right? I mean, like, there's going to be delays. I almost never hold a delay against a company. I almost never hold it against them. Because, like, BFA was that was the point where I learned that it was wrong to hold delays against companies. Because BFA taught me that it's better to hold off and release a quality product than just put something out there for people to play through and fix it throughout the game. So I learned that a lot. Or $1 company. Well, yeah, I mean, like, well, no, you don't have to pay $500. Like, these are only for the people that are like really big backers of the game. I don't see a problem. Like, if you pay a lot of money into a Kickstarter and they let you play the game earlier with an NDA, I think that's completely fine. So, like, basically they have to get the money from somewhere. Okay. Like, Steven is funding a lot of it, but they're also, they're funding some of it through the Kickstarter as well. Here's a really interesting question. Would you rather have it be funded by whales, super whales, paying $550? Or would you rather it be funded by Activision? I would rather go with the whales. I would rather sail around the seas on the whales all fucking day.
This delay is kind of to be expected, though, with the team working from home due to COVID.
Yeah, that's what makes sense.
And I also expect feedback from the recent pre-Alpha 1 test might have contributed to it too. Personally, I think it's good that they're holding off on dropping the NDA, because having played the game, the combat is too far away from being finished, and it'd give people an inaccurate idea of what the final product will be.
And that's what happened with New World, is that a lot of the combat wasn't fully finished, and a lot of the end game wasn't fully finished. So it gave people the impression, because whenever I got to the end game, we only had one of the Spriggan bosses that we were able to do. Like, I played New World a lot, and there wasn't really much of an end game at all. And so people's impression of New World is that New World sucks because the end game wasn't there. So an NDA on these alphas is actually a really good idea, because the first impression that you get is so important. Like, and if you break that first impression and you fuck that up, then you're going to have that, like, beta for Azeroth or whatever it is, right? It doesn't matter how many bugs Blizzard fixes in BFA. It's always going to be beta for Azeroth. That's it. I think they should have left the New World beta out, or the test out, for like 3 or 4 days. Because at 3 or 4 days, people would not be able to fully complete all the game's content. Because you want to give people the impression that the game is infinite. And I think Blizzard also made this same mistake with Classic WoW. Is they released the Classic WoW beta, and then by the time that it went up to level 40 and there was like nothing really to do, it just got boring. And so people got the impression that Classic WoW is boring because people finished all of the content in the game. And it's like, basically, it's like, imagine, okay, this is so perfect. This is such a perfect analogy. So you want to fucking you want to jerk the guy off, right? You want to jerk him off. And you want to get him that close. Like that close. You want to have him edging. But the moment that he actually finishes the content and he busts that nut, you know what he does? He rolls over away from you and he gets back on his phone and he's not interested in you anymore. That's what happened with the New World beta. That's what happened with the Classic beta. It's the perfect analogy. Think about that. You don't want them to do that. You keep them edging.
Since my last Ashes video, some new info has came out that details how the difficulty of raiding will work. Previously, I was under the impression that due to the nature of the game, raiding would have had one difficulty in Ashes, and it probably wouldn't have been too hard.
Well, it scales based off of the amount of players and how fast they're killing the mobs, I'm pretty sure.
It turns out my assumptions were likely wrong.
That's what I think it is.
Raids in Ashes will have adaptive difficulty levels based on your performance against previous bosses in the raid. So let's say your guild absolutely decimates the first boss of a raid and kill it super fast. The next boss will have increased difficulty, better loot, and more mechanics.
Well, it's like like the way this works is it's the exact same as Old War, right? Is that it's like you had to do the Old War hard modes to get access to Algalon. Like in order to even activate, in order to even complete the Hodir hard mode or like the Freya hard mode, you had to do something that was like relatively like hard to do. Or at least I guess with Hodir, like you had to just kill him quickly. But like that was hard in itself. So basically every single thing, the better that you do it, the higher the chance of you being able to go to the next boss on like a higher level, which is really cool because people are going to figure out what the breakpoints are, right? Like clearly they're going to figure out what the breakpoints are. They're going to, because there'll probably be like different variables, right? Like mechanic functioning, like how many players die and how fast the boss dies. Like mechanic adaptability, how fast the boss dies, and maybe how many players are around him. Those are probably going to be the three variables that are weighed to determine the adaptive difficulty algorithm. And people will figure out a min-max for that, 100%. But in finding out that min-max, I think that's metagaming that could actually make the game more interesting. So I'm really excited to see how Steven and like the team, how they're going to make this different.
Basically adapting to the power of your group. If your group kills the first boss but kind of struggles, the next boss wouldn't be too much stronger and you might not get a chance at better loot as a result of that. This is a really interesting design direction that I've never seen done in an MMORPG before, and seems to solve the problem that most sandbox MMOs have, where they just can't compete with theme park MMOs when it comes to difficult PvE content.
Yeah, because that's what people want. People want to be able to do difficult PvE content. And if you don't give them that opportunity, there's only so many people who are going to make their end game PvP. I think that PvE content in general has a broader appeal than PvP content. So I think in the direction that they're going in, it kind of is like a choose your own adventure where neither one of them are really required in the same way. This is a very, very smart way for them to handle it. And I actually really like what they're trying to do.
Due to the nature of their progression systems, and typically not putting players on a loot treadmill in the same way a theme park MMO does. So for the people that are concerned that Ashes will mostly be a PvP MMO, maybe there's hope that this game will actually be able to scratch that PvE itch too.
I think it's probably going to be a 60-40, where it's going to be mostly PvP based and mostly player interaction based. But it's going to have 40% of the game is also still PvE, and there's going to be plenty of players that just PvE. And I think like maybe if you cut 10% off of each one of those, you would also have like economy-based games, right? So like crafting, trade skills, that kind of stuff. I feel like those things would probably also fall into it, but it wouldn't really be the same thing. Like BDO. Not really like BDO. BDO, as far as I know, doesn't really have any challenging PvE content. Like, I mean, all the world bosses are just zerged down, right? I mean, I remember like that's how it was back whenever I played. Like, they would just get zerged down, you'd lag out, and that's what it was. Yeah, it does now. Maybe it does. I haven't played it in a long time.
On paper, this whole adaptive difficulty thing seems like some 400 IQ game design, but I guess we'll actually have to wait and see how it plays out first.
Yeah. I just think it's going to be thresholds based off of how fast you kill the boss. Like, that's probably going to be the first threshold they use. And if you kill the boss in like 2 minutes, then the next boss has, higher level and more loot. And I don't know if they're gonna do, because you can't just do it with that. You have to also have like mechanics as well, because if you do that, then there's a lot of reasons for that. Like if you bring in 100 people, you're gonna always hit the threshold, but that doesn't really make it better. So I don't know.
To briefly touch on the gameplay that's been shown off since my last video, in the July Ashes stream we got to see the devs run around a dungeon to show off the scale of the rooms and the sheer size they're aiming for. They basically want massive, truly epic feeling raids and dungeons with enough room for giant bosses. The August live stream,
I really liked how the layout
the general
looked.
direction
I liked
of the
it a
game's
lot.
hybrid combat system. As many had speculated in the past, it seems like melee attacks in Ashes will cleave monsters in an AoE cone in front of them, exactly the same way it works in Guild Wars 2. Currently, it does seem like Intrepid are looking closely at Guild Wars 2's combat as inspiration for their own system, which is good considering Guild Wars 2 is literally the only MMO I can think of that did a good job with their hybrid action/tab combat system. For September's
did you guys like Guild Wars 2? I never played it, so I can't really comment on this. Did you guys like Guild Wars 2, or was it shitty? It was all right. Yeah, I really liked Black Desert's combat. I felt like there were a few limitations with it, but overall I enjoyed the combat a lot. But yeah, I heard the end game was like really flat and like not that good. But the combat and like just like kind of core gameplay is what a game, as I said, like lives and dies by. So they need to make sure that that's good.
Live stream, we had a 25-minute 4K video showcasing aquatic mounts,
we watched this,
mount swimming animations, and talks that touched on water content. It was super cool to see some of the new mount animations and how some of the mounts are super slow on land, but speed demons in the water.
Yeah, it's the same as in WoW, actually.
Big news for you EU players. Remember 2 years ago there was a bit of a controversy surrounding Intrepid as they initially decided to go with my.com as their EU publisher due to it being very expensive for US companies to set up publishing arms in Europe? Well, it was recently announced that Intrepid will be parting ways with my.com and opening their own EU office in Amsterdam, Netherlands to self-publish the game in Europe. Overall, super good news for EU players, as I know a lot of people were planning on taking a hit to their ping by playing on the NA servers purely to avoid my.com. Now you don't have to.
What's wrong with my.com? It's bullshit, cash shop assholes. Okay, so it's like just bad. Oh, okay. All right, that pay to win every game they have. So people don't like it based off of the connotation or like the correlation. Yeah, game's not out yet. Who fucking cares? Everybody cares. Like, we're all waiting for a good MMO. Like, the thing is, a lot of you guys need to remember, almost every single big streamer would love to have a good MMO to play. Like, and they probably came from MMOs. Like, Tim the Tapman, Lyric, Summit, XQC, Soda. Like, I think that Ninja and Nick Merckx are probably the only two exceptions, and maybe I just don't know what MMO they played. Shroud, there's another one. Moon. Yeah, all of these guys play, like, all these guys played MMOs back in the day. Everybody wants this game to be good. Greek, yeah, look at Greek. Greek's first video he ever made was like him getting the Time Lost Proto Drake. Yeah.
Do that. Overall, despite the slight delay to Alpha 1, good news all round for Ashes of Creation, and it seems like development is still progressing at a decent pace. Having finally got the chance to play the pre-Alpha 1 myself recently, I'm impressed by the team's willingness to listen to feedback, and it looks like we're really going to see this game come into the public eye a lot more in 2021, once those non-NDA Alpha 1 tests become available to streamers. As always, let me know your thoughts on Ashes of Creation in the comments below, and if you want to support the channel, then use my referral link for the game on screen. Thanks for watching. I hope you all have a great day, and I'll see you again really soon.
Oh yeah, I forgot Ninja played Final Fantasy. I forgot all about that. Yeah, this is a great video. I'm a big fan of the Lazy Peon. I've liked the guy a lot. And yeah, there's his video right there. If you guys want to give it a like, give it a watch, give it a follow, give him a sub. I've known this guy like ever since he made WoW videos, like back like 5 years ago. So it's really great to see him still making content and still doing so well. I think that's fucking awesome. If you like him so much, why don't you marry him? Shut up, idiot. Stupid ass bitch in chat. Shut the fuck up, stupid.